Hi, Dan.
Hi, hi, hi.
How are you feeling?
Well, first of all, I'm in California, which is, of course, is paradise. But 2 weeks ago, I wiped out and broke my shoulder and my wrist and clobbered my head. So I almost brought my blue zone life to an abrupt end. But I'm feeling good today, and I can't wait to talk to you.
Thank you so much. I didn't reveal any of that, Dan, on the post when I made announcements that we had to reschedule. I just said an unforeseen incident happened, but that's what happened. Dan had gotten into it. Was a rollerblading.
It was an unforeseen pothole.
Yeah. But you're such a champ, and I so appreciate you taking the time. I know you're so busy, even while you're recovering, and I appreciate you taking the time to chat with us today. And you look great, and you certainly haven't lost your sense of humor, because you send me the funniest messages.
Thank you. Since I can hear you, but I know I look weird.
No, you're good. You're good.
Oh, good.
So I was just saying that you definitely haven't lost your sense of humor, because you send me the funniest messages.
Yeah, I think maturity is overrated. Adulthood is overrated.
Well,
one of the things you see among these, oh, heck yeah. You see these centenarians who act like 15-year-olds, and it's so refreshing, really. I mean, adulthood is for people who are in their late 20s or something. And then, in my opinion, you should just enjoy life, and you should not take it too seriously and not take yourself too seriously either.
Oh, good. Okay, then I guess I'm kind of going in the right direction. There was a time that I hadn't really grown up, and then I was taking life too seriously, and I'm sort of now back on the path where I'm like, okay, well, if this is part of the recipe for longevity, I'm down with it. So you guys, for those of you who are just joining us and you're not yet familiar with Dan Buettner, who is an extraordinary human being, he discovered the 5 places in the world that he's now dubbed the blue zones, where people live the longest and healthiest and happiest lives. So, our topic was the secrets to a long, healthy life. And, you've done so many things. I mean, Dan has a Guinness Book of World Records for, is it cycling? The long distance cycling, something crazy cool. And he's just done so many things. You've seen him everywhere. He's the best-selling author of multiple books. I've got 2 of them right here that we'll definitely chat about today. Look how beautiful this book is. Your book.
I love that. I knew it looked familiar.
And he just works with all these different governments all over the world to implement Blue Zone projects in their communities, in their workspaces, and he has just dramatically improved the lives of millions and millions of people. So here he is. He's with us for I'm not sure how long, but we're going to soak up every minute of it. And Dan, I would just love if you could give just a little background to the people who haven't met you yet, your new fans. We have people who are saying, I love the book, getting the book. Awesome, you guys.
Oh, thank you very much. Well, I just want to say what an honor. This is one of those weird things where you reached out to me in Instagram, and I looked at your feed, and I loved your energy, and we share so many values, and I just want to say what an honor it is to meet you and to meet your colleagues here on Instagram, the people who love you, and thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you so much.
So as you mentioned, my professional life, I'm a big believer that you don't want to do the same thing your whole life. So my professional career has been essentially broken into thirds. The first third, I biked across 6 continents, sort of a young explorer, and that got me into National Geographic. And then I led 14 expeditions to solve ancient mysteries. So I got really good at synthesizing lots of information and bringing really top experts to bear on a mystery. And one of the last mysteries we took on was in Okinawa, Japan, the home of the longest lived women in the world. About 60 times more female centenarians on Okinawa for a cohort of women over 60 than you'd expect to find in the United States. And I go, wow, now that's a good mystery.
Yeah.
And in 2000, I started orienting my career to solving the mystery of longevity, but not looking in test tubes or in petri dishes or in some bizarre genetic code, but simply working with demographers, these are people who are experts at populations, to find the areas where people live verifiably the longest. And once you find that, then teaming up with another group of scientists to help parse out the correlates or the common denominators that are explaining longevity all around the world. So we found 5 of these populations that live a long time. And then that took about 3 years. It wasn't easy.
Right.
But once you find them, it gives you some real insight into what the rest of us can be doing to living a longer, better life. And I think we've done a really responsible job at articulating them. You know, I'll just say ahead of time, I'm not the guy who's going to tell you go eat a superfood. I'm not the guy who's going to recommend a pill or a nutraceutical or give you some false hope that there's going to be a genetic intervention. But over the course of our time together, Serena, I do hope to kind of download your audience with a handful of things that they could be doing to add about, and this is realistic, about 10 years of good life and to feel better every decade along the way. So that's the value proposition of Blue Zones.
I mean, that is invaluable. That's priceless. And I know that that's what people are sort of like looking for. And I just really, I love that you highlighted it's not one thing. You know, it's not a pill or a superfood or, you know, like one way of movement. It's everything that you're going to share with us now, at least a few tips or methods or practices. I'm going to let you do that, but it's an all-inclusive lifestyle. And so if you could share with us, you know, some of this value that you'd like to give, please do.
Sure. Yeah. So, well, first of all, we found the longest lived people in 5 areas. Okinawa, Japan, longest lived women. In the highlands of Sardinia, Italy, the longest lived men and women in the world. In Nicoya Peninsula, Costa Rica, here's a place that's been 1/15th the amount we do on healthcare, and they're half as likely to die in any given year as Americans are at middle age. So they have the highest proportion of people who make it to a healthy 93 or 94. And by the way, everybody who's listening today, the state of the science right now is if you're an average person with an average set of genes, you should be able to make it to age 94. I'm not going to tell you you're going to make it to 100. Making it to 100, you have to have won the genetic lottery. But you could get to 94 and have minimal disability, die quickly in your sleep, you know, potentially after sex, and leave a lot left over for your heirs. And that's the value proposition here. In Ikaria, Greece, which is near Turkey, we found a population of 10,000 people who live about 8 years longer than Americans, but with no dementia. They stay sharp until the very end, almost free of dementia. In America here, if you reach age 85, there's about a 50% chance you're suffering from a dementia. And then right here in the United States, not far from where you're sitting right now, about 70 miles inland southeast, Loma Linda, California, home to the highest population of Seventh-day Adventists in the world. And those people are living about 8 years longer than their neighbors in the next county over. So Blue Zones struck out to find what are these people all doing in common. And we found 9 specific things, but I'm going to end with the big organizing principle that can not only make you and your family healthier, but also entire populations, and we've proved it.
Wow. Okay. You guys take notes. I see so many hearts stand. I see someone that just said, I think I'm in love. I think they're ready to download all of this information.
Yes. Okay, so first start with movement. And I'm going to say something disruptive here. And that is exercise, by and large, has not worked for Americans. We've been sold the idea that if we exercise every day, we'll be healthier. And I know for 15% or so of the population, they get enough exercise, which is defined as 45 minutes of movement a day. But for 85% of the population, it just doesn't work.
Right.
And in Blue Zones, nobody's pumping iron or going to CrossFit or doing any of these things but they live in places where every time they go to work or to school or a friend's house or out to eat, it occasions a walk.
Right.
So they have walking shoes, they have bicycles in some cases. They have a garden out back where they're growing their own food. So every day they're weeding or watering or harvesting. And their homes aren't full of mechanical gadgets to do their work for them. They're still kneading bread by hand. They're sweeping their own floors. They're lifting their own garage doors. And when you add it all up, it adds up to about movement every 20 minutes or so. So their body never goes into that hibernative state that you get when you're sitting around for more than about 90 minutes. Their metabolism is higher, and they're just doing 3, 4, or 5 minute bursts of physical activity every 20 minutes. And that seems to be the evolutionary formula for a healthy amount of physical activity.
That's great. And it's doable, you know? I mean, this is only your first step, and so I don't want to interrupt for too long, but I just love that reminder to people that you don't need to go buy a Peloton, you know? You just need to start doing things around your own space in your own house, and do how people who don't have all these privileges and luxuries do.
Yes. If you're walking an hour a day, you're getting about 90% of the physical activity benefit of training for a marathon. So, and walking is what we see people doing into their hundreds and even through 110. So you really want to set up your life so it's easy to walk. The number 2 thing, and this is much bigger than we realize, it's downshifting. That they still have sacred daily rituals to unwind the stress and the worry and the hurry of the human condition. Every time, Serena, you're mad or stressed out or worried, it triggers the inflammatory response. And that over time, over the years and the decades, wears out your arteries, it wrinkles your skin, it even shrinks your brain. So to wake up every morning as the Adventists do and say a prayer, I'm not particularly religious myself, but or the Okinawans, they take the time to remember their ancestors. It's called Ancestor Veneration, just a few minutes to remember where they came from. The Icarians and the Nicoyans, they take a nap, which, by the way, a nap 5 days a week lowers your chance of heart disease by about 30%.
Wow.
The Sardinians do happy hour, which practice I've adopted, which is actually more powerful than we realize because it forces us to slow down, connect with our friends. A little bit of alcohol, according to Blue Zones, is probably not a bad thing. And to slow down a little bit, it's more important than we think. So that's number 2. Number 3, again, this is not something that marketers can package up and sell you. But if you can answer me right now as I look you in the eye, and if you can sum up in one phrase what your sense of purpose is, why do you wake up in the morning? What gets you out of bed? What fuels your tank? What motivates you? In places like Okinawa, Japan, they have a term ikigai, the reason for which I wake up in the morning. And retrospective studies have shown that people who can articulate their sense of purpose live about 8 years longer than people who are rudderless in life. So, most Americans aren't like you, Serena. They don't have a job they love. Only about 30% of Americans like a job they love. So a lot of us have to go to work anyway. During COVID here, we're lucky to have a job to go to work. If we don't like our jobs, it's so important to be able to focus our purpose on our families or on our religion, or if not that, volunteering, getting very clear what your values are, what you're good at, what you have to give, and then having an outlet. We don't know why, but far more powerful than any pill or supplement you can take is knowing and living your purpose.
That's beautiful. And I'm so grateful. I'm grateful that I have the opportunity to do that. But I mean, I feel like we really all do, right? It's just kind of getting centered into what is important to you. And as you said, even if it's not work, even if it's something you can volunteer, you know, you can still pursue that which you're passionate about in different ways, even if it doesn't happen to be your current profession. It can be your next one, right?
Yeah. So, well, let me suggest a very easy exercise so people clearly know what we mean by this. If you sit down, either spreadsheet on your computer or just a piece of paper, and you have 4 columns. First column is my values, and you write down what they are. Family, it could be faith, it could be love of dogs, or it's going to save the animals. The next column is what you're good at. What am I really good at doing? Write that list. The third column is what's my passion? What do I love to do? And then the fourth column is what are things I can do that give the other three columns an outlet. They put them into work. So it often requires 5 or 10 minutes of focus before we can identify it. But once you do, man, you have a gift for the rest of your life.
Yeah, it's such a great tip. Are you guys writing all this down? I'm looking around like there's people in front of me. I should be looking down at the comments here. So send some hearts. Make sure you're taking all these notes, you guys, and we'll have replays ready. But this is powerful information that you can apply as soon as you're off of this live. So thank you so much again, Dan. And I'm interrupting you, so keep going.
No, I love it. I love being interrupted. Okay, so I'll talk about food for a while and what people in the Blue Zones consume. And that book you showed, Blue Zone Kitchen and Blue Zone Solution. Yes, that's it right there. So that book, that took me about 8 years to produce. And we went back to all the Blue Zones with the National Geographic photographer, David McLean. And I found the people who still keep the food traditions. And that typically is old women, 70, 80-year-old women who are still cooking the way that people have been doing for hundreds of years. And that book is not only a cookbook, it's got 100 recipes to live to 100, but more importantly, I've captured recipes before they disappear and get plowed under the standard American diet, which is washing over the rest of the earth like a sewer, I hate to say. But in order to identify what people eat to live to be 100, you have to know what they were eating when they were 10 and 20 and newly retired. So we relied on dietary surveys, got 155 of them, and did what's called a meta-analysis, which is a worldwide average. And we found that people in the Blue Zones, number one, are eating mostly a plant-based diet. 95 to 100% of their dietary intake, traditionally speaking, has come from plants. Very high carbohydrates. And I know this shocks a lot of people because carbs have become a bad word. But carbohydrates, if you're eating the right kind, there's no better food in the world. So I'm not talking about lollipops and white bread and donuts. I'm talking about, and this is the pillars for every longevity diet in the world, whole grains, greens, nuts, tubers like sweet potatoes, and the longevity secret, the cornerstone of every longevity diet in the world, beans. If you're eating a cup of beans a day, it's probably adding about 4 years to your life expectancy.
Wow. That's a soundbite, you guys. Beans.
Yeah, 4 years. Yes. Eat your beans. People say, should I take a supplement? I say, yes. Take 120 black beans cooked to your liking. That's your supplement. They're full of fibers. They feed your microbiome. They're a great source of protein. They're cheap. You can make them taste delicious. I just made, last night I made French lentils with a cashew cream sort of sauce on it. And man, I'll tell you what, there's no dead animal in the world that tastes better than what I can do with lentils and cashew cream and some nice spices. I'll tell you what.
Yes, I agree with that. And someone had asked about lectins. You can also soak and sprout them too. And it's really simple to soak and sprout and sprout beans as well. Beans, seeds, all of that. Are you there? Are you frozen? Hold on.
No, I'm here.
Okay, good. You're there.
That lectin is a complete myth, by the way. Unless you're eating raw beans, and I mean uncooked raw beans, you don't have to worry about it. As soon as you boil beans for 10 minutes or get them out of a can, all the lectins are gone. So that was just a silly scare. People should be eating beans. In fact, if Americans replaced their meat with beans, we would wipe out about half the heart disease and a good chunk of the cancer. And but I don't know, we have meat happen in this country. People in Blue Zones ate some meat, but at tops 4 to 5 times a month. Very little fish, no cow's dairy. Maybe a little bit of sheep's cheese, pecorino, or some feta cheese from goats. They did drink wine. There was a type of wine, especially in the highlands of Sardinia,
Mm-hmm.
It's a Continental grape. We found it has the highest levels of polyphenol in the world.
Yeah.
It's Blue Zones wine. If you want to find it, you can Google Blue Zones wine and you'll see it. But it's practically
Oh, so we're spinning. You guys, stay with us. Oh, that's okay. You're back. And we're talking wine, so it was a great start and stopping point. So we're talking about Blue Zone wines. And actually, Dan, a couple questions did come up about your cookbook and the recipes before you came on, when people submitted questions. And you guys can find this book on Amazon, pretty much everywhere. Go follow Dan after we do this live, and you'll see all the info. Go to his website, and that's where we can get the book, right, Dan? And all your books, I'm assuming.
bluezones.com or also Amazon. Yeah.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
So one of the questions that we did have about, and there's been several comments about how great the recipes are and how much they love it, and thank you for your work on this. There were some questions about just keeping the recipes completely plant-based, and if that would take away, I guess, the efficacy that they have towards being, Blue Zone friendly. There are some recipes that have animal products, not a lot, but that was one of the questions that came in about tweaking the recipes.
The book is 100% plant-based. Now, I did acknowledge that some Blue Zones, that some of the recipes, some versions of the recipes made locally might include a bit of pecorino cheese, mm-hmm. or some bonito flakes, some fish sauce. But I've, even though meat was consumed in the Blue Zones, I decided early on that this book would be 100% plant-based, mm-hmm. because I believe that when people think they're eating a Blue Zone diet, they should be 100% sure it's going to be healthy. So mm-hmm. almost all the ingredients in there are whole plant-based, as cooked in the Blue Zones. And my official stance is that you don't need to eat any meat, cheese, eggs, or dairy to live a long time. In fact, if you can avoid all those, you stack the deck in favor of your longest, healthiest life. But I recognize that people have dietary restrictions, and I believe people should do what they want to do and eat what they want to eat. But my point of view is plant-based.
Yeah, no, and I'm 100% plant-based, and thank you for answering that question, because I haven't made every single recipe in here, but I thought it was 100% plant-based too. But since the question came up, I thought I would just ask you in case it was a recipe that I had missed. There was a question about gluten as well, because not every recipe is gluten-free, although, it's not that everyone needs to eat that way. Would it be okay to substitute some of the ingredients that were not gluten-free with gluten-free alternatives? And if that would, change the goals of that recipe?
Well, in none of the Blue Zones do people eat gluten-free. And I have the feeling that if you're eating a whole plant-based diet, that you're probably a lot of things that we kind of diagnose as being caused by gluten are probably caused by the things that we eat with gluten. So, for example, we eat a white bun with a hot dog in it. We might think it's the white bun that's making us unhealthy or sick, but it might be the hot dog in it. But I will tell you one very interesting thing, that the recipe for sourdough bread in Sardinia, when you have a real sourdough bread, it's leavened not with yeast mainly, but with a bacteria called lactobacillus. In the process, that metabolizes almost all of the gluten. So a real whole grain sourdough bread will have about 1/20th of the gluten as regular white bread. So it's almost gluten-free. Mm-hmm. So there's not a lot of gluten in this cookbook, but people in the Blue Zones did eat some gluten, and they seem to live long, healthy lives in spite of it.
It's a gorgeous cookbook, you guys, and I'll hold it up again towards the end because I know Dan's going through all his wisdom bombs right now. But it's a gorgeous cookbook. The recipes are amazing, and it's one of the books that I recommend to clients, and I've gifted it several times. So it's a great book. I think you guys should all go out and order it.
Thank you. I will.
So I know I interrupted you while you were talking about food. We'll get back on track with all the other points that you wanted to share with us. And thank you again for all of this. I mean, people are loving all your wisdom.
Oh, good. I see all the little hearts. This is only the second time I've ever done one of these, so it's kind of a thrill.
Yeah.
Who knew my little phone could open me up to a world of people who send little hearts?
Well, hearts.
Thank you.
I think I don't know if you want to tell Kathy, but someone did say they were falling in love, and you have a lot of really kind comments.
Well, I love them right back. I love you all. So the other point, that Madison Avenue or packaged food companies and meat companies spend about $11 billion a year to convince us that we need to eat more of something. And that's what's going to make us healthy. And it's so counter or antithetical to what we found in blue zones. In blue zones, people have strategies not to add more superfoods or nutrients, but they have strategies to take food out of their diet. And a few of them, I categorize them under an Okinawan word, hara hachi bu, which is a Confucian adage to remind you to quit eating when your stomach is 80% full. But that's often achieved by doing a few things. Number one, eating off of small plates. You psychologically eat fewer calories. Pre-plating your food and then putting the leftovers away before the meal instead of after the meal makes a big difference. Eating with your family, proven to eat fewer calories and better nutrition. And then eating breakfast like a king, lunch like a prince, and dinner like a pauper. And getting most of your calories in about a 10-hour window. I'm even though there's all these restrictive diets that tell you to get all your food in an 8-hour window, or doesn't matter when, I'm a big believer you should have a big breakfast and a small dinner, not a small breakfast and a big dinner. And metabolically, there's some good evidence for that, and we see that very clearly in food science.
No, absolutely, and it just gives your body a chance to digest and absorb and get in all those nutrients. So that makes so much sense. And just going back to food real quick, we had a question that I think is probably relevant for a lot of people, is that they have issues digesting beans, and if you have recommendations for that, or if you've come across that.
I do, and it's a very good question. So at the end of our digestive tract, we have a microbiome. It gets a lot of publicity, but what most people don't know is it's one of the biggest de facto organs in our bodies. It weighs about 7 pounds for the average human being. So, that's a big mass of about 100 trillion cells. And those cells are 100 trillion bacteria. And the type of bacteria, there's about 1,000 species. And the type of species that thrive depends very much on what we feed it. So if we feed our microbiome meat, cheese, eggs, then a type of bacteria that putrefies our food thrives. And that type of bacteria actually puts off these biochemicals that are precursors to cancers called TMAOs. And also, the standard American diet offers very little in the way of fiber. Most of the healthy bacteria in our gut eats only one compound, not fat, not carbohydrates, not sugar, not protein, but fiber. So if you're eating a standard American diet, your microbiome is starving. It starts eating the mucous membrane of our gut. You get leaky gut syndrome. You literally get your feces leaking into our bloodstream, causing inflammation, throwing our immune system out of whack. One of the best foods we can feed our microbiome, beans are mostly fiber. They have some protein in there. And the secret to eating beans is to start slow. Start your first few days, eat 3 or 4 tablespoons. And then the next day, eat 5 or 6 tablespoons. And work your way up over the course of about 2 weeks to about a cup a day. And I also find it helps to soak beans and then rinse them really well. Or you can parboil them and then rinse them very well. And by the time a month goes by, I don't know, I eat about 2 cups of beans a day. I have no problems at all with it. And I just think because my microbiome is, they can't wait to get at those lentils and chickpeas. And by the way, if you want to start, let me recommend one recipe from Blue Zone's Kitchen. I met a family, 9 siblings. Their average age, well, their collective age was 861 years. The oldest woman was 190. Her youngest brother was 94. They ate the same soup every day of their life, a vegetable bean soup called minestrone. And they had that with sourdough bread and a little glass of wine. And man, I'll tell you, if you have one meal a day that's sourdough bread and this 3-bean minestrone, your microbiome is going to be healthy. Your heart's going to be healthy. You're going to be full of energy. You're going to get all the protein you need. And by the way, it's dirt cheap. You can make it in a Instapot, or you can make it. There it is. Yes. Easy to.
Can you guys see that?
20 minutes and put it in Instapot, forget about it, and it freezes great for weeks. And I'll tell you what, that's the best supplement you could take if you want to live a longer, better life.
I love it. This is, and you guys, I mean, in the book, go order the book and get this recipe. I mean, you can't really see the recipe over there.
You see it backwards.
Yeah, and you see it backwards. But it
looks like Russian.
Chickpeas, fava beans. This is an amazing recipe. So I haven't made that recipe in a while. I'm gonna make it tonight.
Yay!
So I love that. I'm glad that question was asked. And yes, one of the simplest things you can do is just soak your beans. It's amazing how many people don't know how much that can help. So soak your beans or par cook them, rinse them out well, and that helps a lot. Okay, so
if you're in a big hurry about beans, by the way, and you have a bunch of dry beans, you put them in a Pyrex bowl, fill them with water, and just put them in the microwave for 10 minutes. Do a parboil, then throw that water away. Then cook with those beans, and they'll cook fast, and you got rid of the lectins. And so, people worry, I don't know what to do with dry beans. I don't have time. Well, the reality is you don't have time to not cook with beans, because if you're eating beans instead of meat, you're going to live an extra 6 or 7 years, and you can average that 6 or 7 years back through your life. It's an extra 2 hours a day.
Yes.
So you can't.
And there you go. I love that working backwards breakdown. You get an extra 2 hours just by eating beans, so you have the time. And it's just a good reminder that you have time to live healthy. You don't want to have to worry about illness and disease later, and that's when you feel like you don't have enough time. So,
you're absolutely right.
So we interrupted you again with another great question, great answers, and I'll let you keep going. And we talked about food, movement. What else were we talking about?
We talked about movement, we talked about food, and we talked about de-stressing. And the final category here is connecting. And this is probably the most important. It's the foundation on which longevity is built. And there's 3 elements to it. The first element is putting family first. I can't emphasize that enough. Keeping your aging parents nearby. We know that if you have a grandmother or grandfather in your children's life, not only those grandparents live 2 to 6 years longer than they would in a rest home, but your kids have lower rates of mortality, lower rates of disease. Invest in your spouse. We know that people who have a partner in life live about 4 years longer than people who are divorced or single. So, if you're lucky enough to have a good partner, invest in that partner. And if you're not, go out and find one. It's a worthy pursuit. Invest in your kids so they'll take care of you when you're older. I'm not a super religious person. I could be more religious, but it's very clear in Blue Zones that people who belong to temple or a church or a mosque are living 4 to 14 years longer than people who don't. And I noticed, Serena, I did not say spirituality. The only way you can measure religiosity is people who show up. It's measured by how often you show up to religious service or how often you volunteer at your place of worship. So showing up 4 times a month, extra 4 or 14 years of life. And then the biggest thing, and this is really a take home for your audience, pay very close attention to who your friends are. You know, my grandmother used to say, show me your friends, I'll tell you your future. So we know that if you hang out with people who are obese and unhealthy, there's 150% better chance that you're going to be overweight yourself. Not a pretty thing to say, but the statistics are very clear. If you hang out with people who drink too much, do drugs, who are chronically unhappy, who are even lonely, that is all measurably contagious. So one of the best things you can do if you want to live longer is to go out and proactively surround yourself with 3 or 4 people who have the following qualities. Number one, you want friends whose idea of recreation is physical activity. So you want friends who are going to go on a walk with you or play tennis or ride a bike or whatever you love, go rollerblading. Number two, you want friends who you can have a meaningful conversation with. And I don't mean just gossip or business. These are people who you can call when you're crying your eyes out because you're having a hard time with your partner, or you need to borrow some money, and you can call this person up and they will care about you. So, and by the way, those people don't come free. It usually requires that you are also the type of person who cares about them on a bad day. The third criteria, and I'd say this is the most important, you want to have a few vegan and vegetarian friends. Because if all your friends are sitting around eating baby, I'll be your friend. And Serena, for those of you who listen, Serena and I are waving our hands right now. We want to be your friend.
We'll be your friend.
Because if all your friends are, sitting around the barbecue eating baby back ribs or meeting at McDonald's for breakfast, you're going to start eating that crap. Meanwhile, if you have 2 or 3 friends who are eating plant-based, first of all, they know where the good plant-based food is. So when you go out to eat with them, they're going to show you delicious plant-based, not rabbit food crap. When you have them over to your house, they're going to expect you to learn how to cook plant-based food. And when you go over to their house, they're going to serve you really good plant. So you don't have to think about diet. You don't have to think about buying a book. You don't have to think about counting calories. Just hang out with vegan friends, and you pick up the habits mindlessly. And
it's so true.
So curating that group, and I'd say this is the biggest thing your audience can do, is curate a group of 3 or 4 friends who are healthy themselves and care about you on a bad day, and you can turn your brain off. And that really leads me to the organizing principle of the whole thing. And this, what I'm going to tell you now, took me 8 years to discover. When I struck off in Blue Zone, to be honest with you, it was a big National Geographic assignment. I had funding from the National Institutes on Aging, and I wanted to find the scientific compound that would help you live longer and better. And I was hell-bent on science, find something complex. And I realized in Blue Zones, nobody's taking pills. Nobody's taking supplements. They don't have any different genes than you and I. They have an average set of genes. They're not on special diets. They're not on special exercise program. They're not running marathons. They're not doing any of the crap that we're seeing in beauty magazines. They're just living their life. And the big aha was these people aren't pursuing health and longevity. They're not trying. They're not tapping into discipline or putting in their Outlook calendar something, way of eating or some way of drinking. The fact of the matter is longevity is happening to them. They are making the right decisions, not because it's a conscious effort, but because their environment, their surroundings are set up so the healthy choice is the easy choice. So they're living in places where the cheapest, most accessible, most delicious food is plant-based. It's beans, it's whole grains, it's delicious breads, and they have the time-honored recipes to make them taste good. They live in neighborhoods where they walk to their friend's house and they walk out to eat. They don't have the option to implode into their homes and and get on their devices. They live in neighborhoods where every time they step out their door, they're bumping into their neighbors. There's a village festival that, if they don't show up, somebody's pounding at their door saying, where are you? They belong to churches, and they're expected to show up on Saturday or Sunday whenever their Sabbath is. And they're very clear on their sense of purpose. They've taken the time, or in some cases, it's part of their culture. They know their sense of purpose, and they're living that purpose every day. So the big secret, and this is for people who, if you want to live longer, or you want your workplace to produce people who live longer, do not rely on changing behavior, because it occasionally works in the short run, universally fails in the long run. If you want to live longer, you want to think about setting up your home, your social network, your workplace, so that the healthy choice is the easy choice, or even more important, the healthy choice is the unavoidable choice. So if you never bring meat, ice cream, eggs, butter into your house, you're not going to be tempted by it. If all your friends are healthy, those influences are only going to be positive. If you live in a neighborhood where it's easier to walk to your favorite coffee shop or your favorite grocery store or church or your friend's house, you're not tempted to get in your car, and sit at the wheel. So the key is optimizing your surroundings. So the healthy choice is the only choice.
I love that. That's beautiful. And it's such a powerful reminder. It's doable. It's simple. And, I get text messages with questions sometimes if I don't field them here. And some people are saying, well, how do I surround myself with people like that? It starts with you. You're able to implement and do all these things that Dan has shared with us today, starting as soon as we get off this live. There's a quote people always say throughout, is your vibe kind of attracts your tribe, your vibe attracts your tribe. But that's what it is. And so if you're living in this way, if you're making these choices, naturally, like-minded people and like-minded energies will come your way. And wouldn't you agree with that, Dan? It's just like, if you're starting to eat more plant-based, then you're going to meet other people that eat more plant-based because you're shopping for more plant-based items. You're at the farmers markets or wherever, and you'll meet people that have the similar interests as you. I think you're frozen again. I'm not sure. Okay. Are you there?
You're animated.
Oh, okay. Okay. I just wanted to make sure. Sorry.
I was just paying close attention.
Okay. And we did have a couple questions that I thought was really interesting if you have some time. And it had to do with pollution and what your thoughts were about external environmental pollution, and if that was a factor into longevity in these blue zones. Although, Loma Linda is in California, you guys. It's like 20, 30 minutes from where I am right now in Santa Monica. It's kind of off the 405. So, but I thought it was a great question and something that I wanted to throw out there too.
It's a great question. And yeah, I'm actually in Santa Barbara right now, and I can show you the air. I don't know if you guys can see this, but see how cloudy it is out there?
Yeah.
That's
we
all
have a gorgeous view.
That's all the smoke from the forest fires. That is super bad for you. And one of the things we found in blue zones, that indeed people are living in very clean environments, and investing in clean environments is really important. Supporting the politicians who put cleanliness of environment as a priority, that's going to come back and impact your life expectancy. So yes, in some places, lung disease is the number 5 killer. And if you're breathing, I hate to say it, the smoke we have right now is like smoking a pack of cigarettes a day, and it's horrible. And you don't want to live near a freeway. The closer you are to a freeway, the better chance you have of getting asthma. That's been well documented. Environmental toxins, these are all terrible things, and advantage people who live in blue zones. But once again, that's another thing you can control. If longevity is a priority, you can bring only products in your house that aren't emitting toxic gases, and you can choose to live in a place where the environment's cleaner. Most of us can. I realize not everybody can just get up and move, but the average American moves about 9 times in their adult life, so that's nine opportunities.
Yeah, so I mean, there's that option. You can move to places where the air may be less polluted, but there's also some great, there's really great filters as well. I mean, I have, because of the air right now and all the fires, we have, are you showing us your filter? Which one is that one?
It's called a Coway, Coway.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
right
great.
There. That's pumping, getting rid of this crappy air. So.
Yeah, Coway. Okay, I'm gonna have to look that up. I know.
Yeah, it was in Wirecutter as the best deal.
Oh,
and,
okay.
And by the way, they're not paying. I mean, that's not a paid endorsement. It's the one I happen to have.
Okay. Well, no, that's awesome, and I appreciate that. I mean, none of these are, as I'm spouting them out, are paid endorsements, but I just know that there's the Air Doctor and there's Molecule and there's several filters. And I think, and I did a live with Christian Gonzalez. You guys can go back and look at it. He deep dived into all of that. So, that's definitely another option that you guys have. How much time do we have with you today? Because I know you're pretty short on time typically.
I have about 10 minutes. And by the way, my Instagram is @Dan Buettner.
Yes,
B-A-N-B. Yeah, and if anybody, after we get done, if you direct DM me, I'll be happy to answer questions offline too. So I enjoy doing that, and plus I just love seeing the people who engage. I'm sure you do too, sir. Well, you have too many followers. I'm sure it's hard for you to connect one from.
Well, I try to get back to as many messages as I can, and I apologize. Sometimes it takes me days, and I'm sure there's some that I miss, but I try really hard to get back to all the DMs and to the text messages that come in. And so I so appreciate you guys for all the engagement and all the love and the questions. It means a lot to us, and I'm sure it means a lot to you too, Dan, just for you to have an interest and to share that interest and share. So it's
is it with you, is it just like your warm personality or your lovely soul or your pretty face? How is it that you have so many followers?
Oh, well, I've had my Instagram for a while, so I try to engage, and I post about different things. So it's been, I think people look at my account and they think it just happened overnight. It's definitely been like a growth. It's definitely been a growth over, and I don't keep track of like how many over each year, but it's definitely been a growth over the last, I don't know how many years.
What's the secret to kind of turn this around?
Okay.
What's the secret?
I think there's a few things, and it's so funny because I'm actually doing a course or so on this, but I think that really true authentic engagement is one of the most important things. And I think that starts with what you share. So everything that I've always shared has been from a place of service. I might be sharing something that I love. There's a gorgeous sunset, but I'm also sharing about something that I feel that is impactful, which you do as well. And I think that as Instagram has grown, there's now all these other things. There's algorithms and there's this, and they've been blocking things if you talk too much about health and COVID and immunity. And so, it's gotten a little bit more complicated over the past couple of years. But initially, it was really a space to just share. Share that which serves your heart and serves your soul. And of course, people use it for a lot of different things. But for me, that's really where and how I use the platform is just as a space that I can share more of what I've learned, share my knowledge, share my love for different things that I have or that I've come across. And, for me, that's been what's worked. It's sort of like what you talk about with the blue zones, and the formula isn't complex for me. And there's always complexities like smoke in the air that can make the longevity aspect of it different than what it was a year ago because you're not breathing in all these toxins. And Instagram does that with you too with the algorithms. But I think if you're just constantly sharing content that is conscious and it's helpful and informative and it serves people, whether or not it's information for your mind, information for your soul, and for your heart, then it just goes. It just
I love that.
goes. So that's how I've done it.
That's
and I
a
hope that's
great
helpful for you.
way to remember. Well, that certainly comes through being the receiving end of all of that service and love. And so
Thank
congratulations.
you so much. No, thank you. Congratulations to you. Oh my goodness. I mean, you've been like this warrior and a visionary for wellness. And I really am so grateful that you're here with us. And I think I told you have a delivery waiting for you.
Yes, what a sweetheart. I don't even know what it is, but I'll find out tomorrow.
I'm so excited. You have to message me when you get it. I'm so excited.
I definitely will.
But you guys, Dan's Instagram account is pinned right here on this bottom comment right here. So, go follow him, message him. He's just such a wealth of information, and he's obviously like super just cool and fun and funny. And remember what he said about movement, do the movement, skip the potholes.
Yeah. I was a victim.
Yeah, well, and look at, and I think that just how well you're recovering and you're on here ready, you've been able to travel. I think that's also a testament on your body and your health and how it serves you, whether or not you're just looking for longevity or when you need it the most. When your body's looking for space and that energy to heal, when you've taken care of your body the entire time, that's when it counts.
Yeah, I mean, you could be biologically a decade younger every year of your life by optimizing your lifestyle. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's proven. So it doesn't take a lot of effort, and it takes knowing the right things to do and hanging out with the right people, and I'd say learning how to cook a half a dozen really delicious plant-based meals that you and your family love, and it's all so doable. And I can't promise you 100 years, but I'll give you a good 95.
I mean, I'm happy with 95. I don't know if I want to live to be 100. That's a lot. I mean, then again, if I'm doing this gluten diet, then I am super active and I'll take all the time I can get. So, do you guys have any more questions? Dan, is there anything else that you'd like to add? Because I know you've got to sign off in a couple minutes.
Yeah, well, I'll just say one thing, just sort of in support of this notion. Since 2009, I've been hired by cities to increase life expectancy of entire cities, and the cities we've helped out are Fort Worth, Texas, Naples, Florida, the whole island of Hawaii, Oahu, Maui, several cities in Minnesota, Albert Lea, Minnesota, Washington, 51 cities. And the way our team works, we have about 200 full-time employees. We're paid by insurance companies to go in and lower the BMI of entire cities. And we do it not by trying to convince 1 million people to change their diet, though we do introduce them to Blue Zones diet, but we convince city council and help them get consensus around policies that favor healthy eating over junk food, to favor the pedestrian over the motorist, and favor the non-smoker over the smoker. We can get a lot done by doing that. We have a Blue Zone certification program for restaurants, grocery stores, workplaces, schools, and churches. Right. So the cities we work in, we can typically get about 30% of those places certified. And that's, again, we change the policies, we change the design, so people mindlessly are making slightly better decisions all day long. And then we get about 15% of the population to become Blue Zone ambassadors, and they go into their homes with checklists, and they create these, they upgrade their social circles. We help them do that. We give them a purpose workshop and give them curated volunteer opportunities. So it's policy, places, and people. And when you bring that perfect storm together and stay focused on it for 3 to 5 years, we've been able to lower the obesity rate of entire cities by 15 to 18%, lower the smoking rate by 20%, raise people's well-being, and that's measured by Gallup.
Wow.
So I say this mostly in service of saying that this stuff really works. Insurance companies don't pay for it unless the data is there. And, we do it on a city level, but taking this approach of going to every facet of your life and thinking about how you can shape your environment so the healthy choice is the easy choice can really make a huge difference over time in your unconscious decisions. and not trying to battle with the annual diet or, the killing yourself with the trying to run a triathlon every 3 months. It's just not silver bullet, but silver buckshot.
Oh yeah, I love that. Not a silver bullet, but a silver buckshot. So, how can more people they'll go to your website and they can support. Is there any way for us as an audience to continue to support your Blue Zones projects and what you're doing with these governments? We can do it, with how we live our own life, but.
Well, you could at bluezones.com, if you think your city is a city that would like to become a Blue Zone, it tells the process. I have to say it's pretty involved. But if you want to meet other people who share a Blue Zone lifestyle, we have a Blue Zone program. If you Google Blue Zone program, you can. It's all free. You can sign up for that. And then we have Blue Zones wine and the Blue Zone cookbook. Yeah. Those are the other thing. Most of what we do, we just put it out there. Yeah. And we rely on the city work, but I just love the engagement.
That's great. Okay, you guys. Well, we're rounding up to the hour, so I don't want to lose you guys without saying goodbye. But go to Dan's, account, go to his website, grab his book, get the wines, and before we get cut off, I just want to say thank you all again. Thank you, Evan. Thank you, Elena. Thank you, everyone who's been making all these amazing comments, and thank you, Dan, for spending this hour with us. It was just such a pleasure. It's such an honor.
You're a delight. This was a blast, and thank you for inviting me. And I'll come back anytime. And I really enjoyed it.
Yay! Okay, we'll do it again soon because I already know my inbox is gonna blow up with messages that's asking if Dan can come back. So thank you so much for the offer. We'll for sure do it again.
All right. I love you guys.
Okay. Love
See
you
you
guys.
at 100.
Okay. Bye. Have a good rest of your day.
Bye.